What's good, Blaster Podcast? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Jared. Guys, I want to talk to you about this migrant situation again, once more. Now, last night, I was watching Dennis Sperling's live stream, and he was talking about the migrants that were coming across the southern border. Now, what he mentioned was the fact that there were a lot of military aged males coming across the border. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you the live stream, and we're going to talk about this because this is something that I never thought would have came across, but the more and more this is happening, the more and more I'm starting to see a potential countrywide threat that a lot of YouTubers aren't paying attention to, and I want to be one of the first ones to actually call this out. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna watch this, and I'm gonna come back with a scenario that I believe, or not scenario. I'm gonna come back with something a little bit to kind of coincides with what Dennis is saying. Let's get it.
Mighty tight. Green card bros in the chat room, man. We got plantation bros. We got passport bros. Now somebody type green card bros in the chat room. We're seeing a massive influx of migrants. And it's not just from the usual spots, okay? We're not just talking about men coming in from Central America and Mexico. Nah, man, we're talking about a diverse group of people. They coming from Haiti, they're coming from Colombia, they're coming from Chile, they're coming from Brazil, Peru, Cuba, Dominican Republic. They're coming from as far places as China, India, Afghanistan, and many countries in Africa. And the numbers are staggering, over 100,000 each month. And it's putting a real strain on the system. You see what's going on in Chicago. You see what's going on in New York. And the vast majority of the men, of the migrants coming, they're not women and children or families. They're military-age men, young men strong enough to fight and do all the other things that men do. Now, the Biden administration, they initially tried to play it down, but let's face it, they got to face the music at this point. We're seeing talk about possibly rolling back to some of those tougher policies from before when Trump was in office. And guess what? This is causing some real heat within the Democratic Party, especially with the left wing of the Progressive Party. And it's not just about politics. This crisis is hitting our cities hard. Like I said, New York, Chicago, for example, I mean, they're shelling out huge amounts for housing and legal aid and social services for these migrants. And here's the kicker. They're struggling to get reimbursed by the feds. New York City alone has dropped over $1.4 billion on this problem. And they're calling for more help, more flexibility from the federal government to manage this whole situation. So what we're looking at here is a complex puzzle. It's about policy. It's about humanitarian needs. It's definitely about financial impact. And this isn't something that can be solved with simple answers. It needs to be coordinated, a coordinated approach involving different levels of government. And it's a topic we need to be aware of because it affects our communities, our economy, and our nations as a whole. Now, this used to not be a problem until the great state of Texas and its fantastic two-wheeled governor, Greg Abbott, decided he was going to put buses, I believe airplanes and trains to use and send these migrant men to these sanctuary cities. Before, this used to be a problem down in Laredo and down on the border. And we used to have to deal with it here in places like Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and California. But now, what Greg Abbott has done is spread the pain around. So, me being who I am, somebody type Uncle D. Hold on, let me get a sip from my jelly jar because it's about to get crucial. I have a prediction for you. Now, before I go into this prediction, I want you guys to remember that I was the one that told you 3 years ago that the lovely ladies would become the face of crime here in America. I was the one that told you that the lovely ladies were going to start, the incarceration rate was going to go up. Recently, I guess last year, I told you that these black attorneys who are prosecuting Trump like black attack dogs would themselves come under fire, and they would lose their law licenses. They would get indicted. They would be investigated. Y'all remember that?
All right, so I'm gonna do another review on what the rest of he's saying, but I particularly want to focus on the part of the video where he was talking about the migrant men that were coming in. Now, he said that these men were military age men. So basically 18 to 40, or I should say 18 to 35 in this particular instance. 18 to 35. Now, what I hear when I hear that, I hear sleeper agents, I hear government sponsored, or I should say foreign government sponsored agents. And one particular thing that could potentially happen if an extremely large amount of foreign agents come into the country: espionage. We have a case that could potentially turn into an espionage problem. Now, for those of you who do not know what espionage is, let's take a little look-see at Google. Espionage.
Here's the definition of espionage: the practice of spying or of using spies, typically by governments, to obtain political and military information.
As you can see. So he's talking about these military-aged men could potentially get put into service because we have a lack of young men, my age group, signing up to be bodies to a war. Notice how I said bodies. Now, I want to particularly focus on that. The reason why we ain't signing up for the military is the reason why a lot of people aren't. We see the political climate. We see the potential fallout of a World War III happening. And we particularly don't want to be a part of it because our government gives no crap about us. And we just don't want to give our lives up to a country because we've seen what this country does for its veterans. We can see that. We see a lot of homeless veterans out there nowadays because the government gave up on these veterans. So you have men my age saying, I'm not going. Now back to the espionage problem. They have spies of all ages. They have spies that are 7 all the way up to 65. There's people that are specifically trained to be these sleeper agents and spies. As you heard what Dennis said, there's people coming from Colombia, Venezuela, DR, Mexico, Yemen, Afghanistan, China. Now, all these countries all of these countries have some sort of problem with the U.S., specifically China, Afghanistan, and Yemen. Yemen is being currently bombed by the United States. China is in a war, is in a sort of kind of standoff with the U.S. about Taiwan. And Afghanistan and Iraq, they're still steaming about the deployment that happened there in the early 2000s. So, you have people coming in from these countries. Now, I'm not saying there's a lot of these people that are coming in that could potentially be spies, but that's a national security risk that we are currently going through right now. This Biden administration has not shown us the best in leadership when it comes to national security. What I am trying to tell you is this. The more and more people we allow into this country, the more and more unstable this country becomes. There's a reason why a lot of people don't want to vote for Biden anymore. And it's because of these policies that he's allowing to happen. It's because of this immigration problem that he's allowing to happen. The key word I want you guys to take away from this specific video is espionage. That is something that could potentially be dangerous for you, for both you and this country. If an espionage operation happens in this country, that's a national security threat that we've never experienced, because we've always been the ones that were that always had our head on the swivel when it comes to stuff like that. Now we have a president that doesn't want to secure our borders. We have a president that doesn't know what the French toast is going on half of the time. And we have a president that is allowing this crap to happen, not thinking about the national security of this country. America is on the verge of collapsing because of this. You have race wars potentially popping off. You have the economy suffering. You have people not giving a crap about the country, no patriotism. And you potentially have an espionage case happening because of all the unchecked, unregulated, unregistered people coming into the United States through an insecure southern border. All I'm going to say is this. 2024 is going to be one of those years that's going to prove to be very, very, very critical when it comes to the national security of this country and your future. Color me crazy, but I got a feeling there's already a espionage incident already going on, and we don't even know about it. The government probably doesn't even know about it. That's all I'm saying. It could potentially be one. I'm not saying for sure, but all I'm saying is this. If the FBI is looking at these videos, I'm going to say this. Instead of watching me, you need to watch who's coming into this country. Because I ain't the threat. You have threats coming in and you don't even know it. Anyways, like, share, subscribe, channel, support the podcast, SPyPod.com. See you guys on the flip side. And guys, keep your head on the swivel. Anyways, later guys.